Columbia Crest Winery presents the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. Today from New York, the Syracuse Thunderboat Classic. Brought to you by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Rent it all at U-Haul Centers. We are in the beautiful north central part of New York State, in Syracuse, New York, and Lake Onondaga. Hi, everybody. I'm Don Poyer, and as you can tell, we got a problem here on the lake. It is very windy, and compounding that problem is the fact that the weather conditions are changing almost by the hour. Now, Jim Henrik is down with defending world champion Jim Kropfeld to talk about these conditions we'll have to deal with today.
Well, Don, as you say, wind is a factor. In fact, the chief referee, Lee Shadeth, has just called a 30-minute delay for the start of this race. Jim Kropfeld and Miss Budweiser not opened. You have a controlled environment. You don't notice the wind in there, so you kind of have to read the water.
That's true. You really don't. Being enclosed in the Budweiser, like you said, is it's a little different than sitting outside there. You don't feel the wind coming from the sides or whatever it may be doing. So I have to look for flags on the beach or on the shore, and especially up here on the cranes, there's some flags that I can watch. The wind really whips up the water, especially down here in turns 3 and 4.
Weather conditions always change back east. It's unlike the Western Hemisphere, where we were a couple of races ago for like Tri-Cities and Seattle. And now the defending champion has his old boat that won here last year. He's not in a controlled environment. Let's go down to Don Poyer in the Miller American. Don?
Jim, as a matter of fact, this is the boat that Chip won in last year here in Syracuse, and it's back again. Why go with this boat instead of the newer one you've had all year?
Well, we broke what we call the spar, and the spar is the member that runs in front of the boat between the sponsons that keeps the sponsons together. The boat's been taking a lot of beating all year and finally fatigued and broke, so we needed to bring this boat.
And as Jim mentioned earlier, you're now out with the elements. Is it like coming back to an old friend?
Yeah, at first, the first lap was a little unnerving. All of a sudden, I felt my head getting blown around and all of that. But after a lap, then it's right. It was just like being back with an old friend again.
With the old friendship, has the old confidence come back with it?
Well, the boat's been fun to drive all week. The problem is it's not been quick, and we've been slow. And right now, we're just not all that competitive. We're going to try some more things, and hopefully by the final heat, we'll be competitive.
Well, have fun today.
Thanks, Don.
All right. Now, Jim's got the rundown for Heat 1A.
All right, Don, 9 boats reported to Cap 8 have qualified, and it'll be 4 and 4. 4 in Heat 1A, 4 in Heat 1B, 4 turbines, and 4 reciprocal engines. That's the way the field splits up. Now let's look at 1A. The U7 Jackpot Garrett Turbo, driven by Cherry Hop, and checked in at 102.5. Ron Snyder in the whole set Miss Madison, 116.7. Todd Yarlin in the Quick Fill Thriller at 117.8. And the only turbine in the field for this particular heat, 1A, is Mr. Pringles, driven by Scott Pierce at 125.8. Now, 1B, Don, you have a little better competition, I believe.
Jim, you're absolutely right. 3 of the top 4 qualifiers are in Heat 1B, that field of 4. Let's take a look. First of all, out of the state of Washington, Mitch Evans driving Pepsi America's Choice, the U15. Then George Woods, the rookie in 1987, driving Oh Boy Oberto. Chip Hanauer driving again in that older boat in the Miller American, the host boat for this race. And finally, the defending national champion, Jim Kropfeld of the Miss Budweiser, the U1 at better than 145 miles per hour. So there's your lineup for Heats 1A and 1B. It's a windy, gusty day on Lake Onondaga, but racing is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to Syracuse. We have now just been put on another hold, so we're an hour late. Let's get a word from Commissioner Don Jones.
Well, certainly right now the weather is not improving any. It's going like the Weather Bureau said it was. It's blowing in gusts 25 to 35 miles an hour on a half of our course. There are 2-foot rollers along with 6-foot intervals. So it's not really very good. But right now what is happening is that Jim Cropfield and Chip Henauer are going to go out into a patrol boat and look at the water from a first-hand view. At that time, then we'll reassess what might be done in the way of an abbreviated race, or at this time, just continue on with our wait and go on hold.
Well, this enables us to look back at some of the unforgettable moments in this 5-year-old race, like a preliminary heat in 1985. Turn, which can be a problem at times with wind and choppy water, are the boats, and they're all very early. You will see the starting line in a moment. On the way inside is the Boyo Berto with Jerry Hopp, Executone telephones, and then the 7-Eleven with Steve Reynolds here, as you see. You saw the starting line and you heard the gun. A good start by everybody, especially the man on the right of your screen, Jerry Hopp in the Boyo Berto Beef Jerky, qualifying at 108 miles per hour. He's in first place and holding on to lane number 1. Executone telephone second, and the 7-Eleven with Steve Reynolds in third place. Around the north turn, 7-Eleven has gone dead in the water down in the north turn. More problems for that turbine-powered boat. Reynolds waving that he's all right, but anyway, let's go back to the race. Boyo Berto still in first place with Jerry Hopp. One of the slower qualifiers, but running very well. Executone telephones on the left of your screen. That's the Kenny Toyota Volvo on the right. Look out, the boat's going to flip. The Kenny Toyota Volvo has flipped going down the back chute. Leif Borgeson, the driver. It looks like the boat has landed right side up. Let's locate the driver. There he is on the left of the boat, Leif Borgeson. The race has been stopped. The flares have been shot. As you see the red flag, the boats will return immediately to the pits. The Executone telephone going back. Yes, the boat has landed right side up. The wing is virtually gone. The cockpit is gone. The rescue boat is now in place to pick up Leif Borgeson. We have no idea his condition at this point, and we will try to update you as soon as possible. Let's go back and try to get a better idea of what happened. Kenny Toyota Volvo on the right of the screen, behind the rooster tail of the Executone telephones. The right sponson goes up into the air, and then that huge mass of air under the boat flips it over. They call it a blowover in unlimited hydroplane racing. The boat lands literally on its back and then bounces, landing upright where it came to rest. The driver, Leif Borgeson, 39 years old, making his return to unlimited hydroplane racing after 10 years on the beach, suddenly in the middle of a catastrophe. Leif Borgeson fully recovered from that accident. We'll look back through the 5 years on Lake Onondaga if the wind continues to blow here in 1987. Back here in Syracuse, race officials and boat owners now meeting for about the 10th time, trying to decide what to do because of the wind problems. In the meantime, let's go back to 1985. Remember Heat 2A. What a race! What a wonderful race. The Budweiser falling back a little bit, however. There goes the Executone telephones and Scotty Pierce. A Merlin engine for the Executone against the Griffin engine of the Budweiser. Scott Pierce driving the race of his life right now, and he knows he's going against one of the best in Cropfield. Scott Pierce, a very, very good limited driver, has done a lot of competitive racing in that level. Has not done that much deck-to-deck racing in the Unlimiteds, however, and it's a different world compared to the Limiteds. But Scott Pierce in first place here in Heat 2A in Syracuse, New York. There's the battle for third and fourth. Third place right now, the American Speedy Printing and Andy Coker against Jerry Hopp and the Boyo Berto. The Budweiser falling back. Looks like Cropfeld's trying to switch lanes. Yeah, he's gone to the outside, trying to pick up on lane number 2. In the meantime, coming around the south turn, you see the lead by Executone telephones. Jim Cropfield trying to get used to that new boat. It's got a lot of dialing in to do yet. They've got to do a lot of things to the sponsons, lighten them up a little bit before it'll be running the kind of speeds they want. And I'm talking about laps of 130, 135, even higher in competition. Executone telephones, first place with Scott Pierce. In second place, still the Budweiser. Keep an eye on Jim Cropfield getting out into lane number 2. He likes to be on the outside. Can drive well in lane number 1, but it's a little tougher for a driver who is ahead of him to see that boat coming up on the outside. However, a nifty, very healthy lead right now for Executone telephone. Keep in mind, too, this is only Heat 2A, the final preliminary heat. Crunch time comes during the final, of course, and that'll be our next race. The Budweiser, as you see the Executone crew watching, is beginning to pick up a little bit. Yeah, Cropfield coming up on Scott Pierce on the outside as they go around another turn. Both boats around 115 miles per hour on this, so this is the fastest heat by far of the day. Scott Pierce not looking back, going down the back chute now, holding on to first place in Heat 2A. American Speedy printing in third place, going by in the foreground. Here comes Jim Cropfield in the backstretch. In lane number 2, he's moved slightly ahead of Pierce. I'm really surprised to see this kind of race so early in the day. They want to save those engines. The Budweiser has burned up a couple of engines in testing here in Lake Onondaga in Syracuse, and I know they want to be careful for the final, but right now, nice little battle going between Cropfield and Scotty Pierce coming down the main chute. They're about to complete lap number 4 of this 5-lap heat. The Budweiser, Jim Cropfield. Executone crew, they know they've fallen back into second place, but this one isn't over yet. Look at this, Cropfield holding on to lane number 2. You can hear the crowd in the background getting to see some wonderful racing. That's Cropfield, a 5-time national champion in the limited level, driving the very famous Country Boy limited boat in the 225 cubic inch class. He's in first place now ahead of Scott Pierce. He's still holding in lane number 2, however, so Scott Pierce has the lane if he can get the horsepower and the speed going down the back chutes to catch the Budweiser. Rough line on the part of the Budweiser. Things like that you won't see once it's dialed in a little bit better. Riding a little heavy on the sponsons, as we said earlier. The skid fin digging in. You see the Oboyo Berto. It is dead in the water in the south turn. The Budweiser having to go wide. Executone telephone on the inside, and now it's a sprint for the finish line. Executone telephones, lane number 1. The Bud in lane 2. Here comes the finish between Pierce and Cropfield. It goes to the Budweiser, winner of Heat 2A. But right now on Onondaga Lake, a little choppy is Chip Hanauer, many of the other drivers, Ron Snyder, Jim Cropfield. What a couple of hams. They're out checking the course right now, and you can't really tell from the camera, but it is extremely rough, especially in the second turn. Jerry Hopp, all of them taking a look at it, and it's simply unraceable. We'll be back in a minute.
Quadruple thumbs.
Blowing them up is easy, just hold them up. Okay, this is Chip again. Is the entrance pin to turn 2 the red buoy that has a boat working on it right now? Over.
Race officials have decided to move the course. They're actually moving buoys, making it a smaller course, getting out of the treacherous area of the lake. As a result, it'll be a course 1 mile and 7/10 in length. That means it is not a certified course, and that means no points at all will be awarded to the drivers or the boat camps. In other words, this is going to be an exhibition run, 3 different heats, 2 preliminaries and a final for the fans. What about this?
This is terrible. You know, how can we can't even put a show on to the people. We can't even get ourselves organized out here.
Well, good luck.
Thank you, Dan.
Ron Snyder obviously not happy about circumstances. It's still very rough down in the second turn, and you'll see it in just a moment as the boats head out onto the course. So here are the 4 drivers that will get their first look at Onondaga Lake close up on this windy Sunday. As you saw, Jerry Hopp, also Ron Snyder, not too happy about taking the wholesome Miss Madison out on the lake today. Todd Yarling with the new sponsor here in 1987 in Syracuse, Quick Fill Thriller. And finally out of Seattle, Scott Pierce and the turbine-powered Mr. Pringles. So let's give it a shot. Heat 1A. The qualifying speeds back on Friday by these boats. Very few ran yesterday. Here comes the start with all 4 of them. What a beautiful setting with the sun beginning to set. Syracuse, the city skyline in the background, and all 4 boats coming down this now very, very short straightaway. 1.7 mile course. not certified. The start-finish line is actually in a yacht now that's been moved halfway down the front straightaway. So like I say, this is back in the Stone Ages, but we want to give the folks here on the shores of Onondaga Lake a show, and they're getting a good one as all four go around the back shooter now down the back straightaway. The Miss Madison on the inside, the wholesome Miss Madison, that's Scott Pierce in the Mr. Pringles, and they're duking it out pretty well. Look at the white caps. This is reminiscent of Philadelphia in 1986 when they raced there in front of better than 250,000 fans, but horrible conditions, and it really meant the boats had to go out and at least put on an exhibition, and that's what they're doing here. No points. This is the treacherous turn, the second turn on this course. Can you imagine if they went down another, say, 300 yards down further into that treacherous part of that lake? Pretty choppy. 2 3-foot rollers, and Ron Snyder right now in first place. Third place, the U-22, that being the Quickfill with Todd Yarling, owned by Jim Saddam. What a gorgeous shot, as you see, one of the most sturdy and steadiest boats on the circuit, one of the heaviest also. Uh-oh, Mr. Pringles, computer trying to shut down that turbine engine that is driven by Scott Pierce. Todd Yarling and the Quickfill, the U-22, out of Hanover, Indiana. We have seen him throughout the season, and they've had a very good year. In fact, going into Seattle, they still are the leading piston engine-powered boat in terms of points for the overall year. So they've had an outstanding season coming back after a troubled 1986. This program, the Mr. Pringles, they just keep getting better every day as Scotty Pierce wheels around the first turn. Look at the white caps there. And this is one of the heaviest boats on the circuit, and it's still being bounced around. Again, back to the much lighter boat built by John Stoddicker, Todd Yarling's haul out of Hanover, Indiana. Jim Saddam is the leader of this crew. Let's get a word from him on the conditions out here. Jim Saddam, what do you think of this?
Oh, it's wild. The water's been rough and it's been windy all day, and we've held a race as long as we could hold it. We had to try to do something. So to keep from disappointing the fans and put the show on, they had to shorten the course, which will keep it from being an official race, so to speak. They're out there racing, but there's no points involved in it. They're just trying to take it easy, do the best they can on the water they got.
That's all they can do.
That's about all they can do on this, Thomas. Keep it safe.
So in the meantime, the sun continues to set. We're at about 5:45. The Miss Madison, I guess you can call it out in front. Again, going through the huge rollers out there. Ron Snyder and the wholesome Miss Madison driving a boat that has won 22 races throughout its career, about 13, 14 years worth. The only other boat to win more, the Miss Budweiser that was retired a couple of years ago with 24 victories. Ron Snyder out of Piqua, Ohio, and Todd Yarling in second place as he comes down the main straightaway as well. An estimated crowd of about 30 to 35,000 on hand when our racing day began. Several of them still here trying to see what it's all about. Coming in unofficially again, third place is the Turbo Garrett, the Jackpot Turbo Garrett with Jerry Hopp out of Seattle. And finally, after shutting down momentarily, the Mr. Pringles, that being with Scott Pierce. And again, no points being awarded here in this or the second preliminary heat or the final heat coming up in just a moment. So here's a gander at what the official results were. I hate to use the word official. Wholesome Miss Madison, Quickfill Thriller, Jackpot Garrett Turbo, and the Mr. Pringles. So let's go down to the pits and see what's happening.
Ron Snyder, that looked like it might have been a little fun or not too fun at all. What do you think?
Well, you know, it's never any fun when you got to put on a race like that, and you know, without everybody else getting their foot in it, we had to run harder. I was just getting what knocked out of me out there, and we're not set up to run slow, so I ran as hard as I had to.
All right, now the Sprinkles are right beside you, and all of a sudden in the apex of corners number 3 and 4, he all of a sudden shut down. When did you know he was gone?
Not till I came back around again, because I don't have rear view mirrors on my boat.
Well, I don't think he could see you either.
No, that's a possibility.
All right, let's check out now with Don. Don?
Guys, what happened to the right fairing? Is that strictly water damage?
Yeah, that's how big the holes are. The water came up over the top of the boat and washed that off of there. Don, I'm not kidding. It's, at least 5-foot holes out there.
Give us some idea of what kind of speed you're actually hitting out there.
Well, in the chutes, I could run fairly fast. I mean, I ran probably 145 or so, which for here, I think today is, it's pretty fast. I didn't really have any problem. I set the boat up as loose as I possibly could to try to get over it, but the rollers are running parallel to the corners, and there's nothing I can do for setting the boat up but just fall into them. And, we had an overspeed shutdown, and I was happy for it, to tell you the truth.
Bill, that's your baby out there getting beat up.
Yeah, I don't like to see it get beat up, but we're here to boat race, so that's what we're going to do.
And things are a whole lot calmer up at the public market in Syracuse, where you can pick up fresh produce virtually every day of the week. We'll be back in just a minute. This is the Continental High Performance Corner, a closer look at the fastest race boats in the world. And since this weekend has been somewhat strange, the weather not allowing us to race like we normally would, we'll give you a rather different High Performance Corner. Yeah, yours truly is going for a ride. Ron Snyder of the Wholesome Miss Madison has been kind enough to take me along for a little ride in one of the great old boats, the conventional-styled Wholesome Miss Madison. First, we put on the fireproof hood. Then Mitch Evans let me use his gloves and his helmet from the Pepsi America's Choice. And out we go to sit behind the engine. Puts me on the left side of the cockpit. Charlie Grooms, the crew chief, helping me out. They put me on the left side as Ron Snyder squeezes into the cockpit. There he comes. And he'll ride the throttle. And somehow these two goofballs will get into the cockpit and go for a ride.
Hey, Fire! Hope we see you again, bud. Nice knowing you.
And after that great encouragement from everybody on shore, off we went onto the gray waters of Onondaga Lake. What a thrill. Down the straightaways at better than 130 miles an hour. And then we talked about it afterwards.
Sensation, we felt a lot of heat from the engine. That was expected.
That's what it really is.
From behind the engine.
Yeah, you sit in the middle on the windshield and everything else floats around you.
Got a fair amount of G's going into the turn, we noticed.
Yeah, I'm all bruised over here. You're bigger than what I thought you were.
You're a nice cushion.
Thank you.
As far as the straightaways, felt terrific. I mean, it's just incredibly stimulating.
Something different.
Yeah, really.
Now it's in your blood. When you going to get one?
As soon as I get the money and a sponsor.
Get two of them.
Did they give you the speed done? 98?
Speed, we hit about 130, I think, about the max we got.
Well, you was paying attention.
That's right. That's right. The oil pressure was at 100 throughout the entire
You
time.
think about going to Hollywood?
I know I'm going to finish.
As the wind delays continue in 1987, let's go back to 1986, August, the final heat here in Syracuse. The Budweiser with a terrific start in about lane number 4. The Miller American in lane number 1. The Bud into the corner first. As they set up coming out of the first turn, the Budweiser in lane number 2. On the inside hip of Kropfeld is the Miller American and Chip Hanauer, the two fastest boats in the world, going down the back chute at speeds of better than 180 miles an hour. Hanauer in the position you usually find him, lane number 1, and Kropfeld always dueling with him, trying to get that same lane, but this time coming out way outside. Ooh, valuable time picked up by the Miller American that time, coming down the main straightaway. Chip Hanauer out of Seattle, first place. Second place, the Budweiser, Jim Kropfeld of Cincinnati. Speed for the Miller, 131. The Budweiser at 127. The Miller American crew, as tired as they are after working all night to get this boat ready in time, they are in first place. They are right now the national point leaders. Bernie Little upset. His boat is in second place. He had hoped that he would see his Budweiser get out in front and stay there. Ron Snyder, he's had a busy day in the Wholesome Miss Madison. The Miller American still in first place, going into the east turn here on the second lap. The 7-Eleven dying down. We wondered where he was, but it looks like Reynolds has it going again. Here comes the Miller already with a chance to lap the 7-Eleven. The Miller American, first place, the boat built by Jim Lucero. Second place, here comes Kropfeld in the Miss Budweiser. You can hear the whine of that Lycoming engine. Hanauer going for his 23rd victory. Here's a great race between two Madison teams. On the inside, the U-22 and Todd Yarling, and on the outside, jumping up into the air, is the Wholesome Miss Madison and Ron Snyder. The entire Sedan family out on the dock supporting Todd Yarling, who is fighting for third place right now in the final heat in Syracuse. The Thunderboat Classic and the Miller American in first place. All the frustrations the past couple of years for the Miller American team. Now maybe they've got a chance to win one. Again, Snyder and Yarling dueling, fighting for third and fourth. Back in 5th is Jack Schaefer. And in 6th right now, the 7-Eleven, but it's moving up. This is the Miller American down the back chute. Speed on the second lap for the Miller, 130, almost 131 miles per hour. For the Budweiser, 129. 7-Eleven running again. Let's see how much ground they can pick up now with the Miller American on the outside hip. Reynolds a chance to run alongside the Miller and find out how that boat is running. The Budweiser has stopped in the left turn, the east turn, and Kropfeld's day is over. What a heartbreak for Kropfeld and the Budweiser team. A great challenge by the Bud, but the Miller American, people keep chasing it. And with the exception of the Budweiser winning a couple of races this year, nobody's been able to catch Hanauer and the Miller American. Miller crew's got to be tired. The 7-Eleven has moved all the way up to second with the downfall of the Budweiser, but here comes Chip Hanauer in first place, and he will finally get a victory here in Syracuse, the Miller American. 1 year later, we're back in the pits with a break in the weather, and we'll be able to continue our exhibition runs as Carol Lee works on the Holset Miss Madison. Activity beginning to pick up in the pits now as our exhibition runs will continue. I'm Don Poyer with Jim Hendrick. Let's get a word from Jim Kropfeld of the Budweiser. Jim Kropfeld, your boat is basically designed to go very fast, and it's going to be tough to go very fast out there.
It's going to be hard to do. I think I got to be crazy to go out and do this, but with that wind, I don't know what's going to happen. And the rollers up there, Ronnie Snyder just came in and told me it's really bad up that upper end, so I think I'll go through there fast the first time and see what it does, and then maybe I can slow it down a little.
Scott Pierce was saying that the waves in the turn are running parallel to the shore, so it's hard to set up for it.
That's great. That changed since we were out there than the last time.
Yeah. Well, it may be different by the time you get out there.
It probably will be the way things are going here.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
The Oboy Alberto heading out. The rookie, George Woods, drives that boat. Here comes George now, and that's going to be a challenge going out, still getting to know that boat. This is Chip Hanauer's boat. He won 1 year ago in this particular hole, as we saw just a minute ago when we looked at the old 1986 final. Well, George, this may be the ride of your life, huh?
Yeah, it kind of looks that way. It looks like it's pretty rough out there.
Were you able to learn anything from the other drivers?
Yeah, I sure was. Went over and talked to a few of them, and, well, I think it's just a day of survival.
Okay. Jim Harvey over here on the right, what do you think? You're the owner of the boat.
Oh, we're just all going to hold our breath and hope it comes back the way it goes out. And it looks like it's calming down out there a little bit, so this should be a pretty good run.
Okay, well, have fun out there, guys. Are the belts an extra tug tighter?
You betcha.
Okay. And here are the four principals in our second exhibition go-around. Mitch Evans in the Pepsi America's Choice. George Woods, who made a name for himself nationally in the K-Boat class, also the 5 and 6 leader. Chip Hanauer, many times national champion for the Miller American. And what can you say about this gentleman? Jim Kropfeld and the 1987 Miss Budweiser. What a year. So this is the first appearance for these four boats today. And you can't help but think, after watching that 1986 final, what a difference a year makes. When the Miller American dominated the circuit, this year the Budweiser winning 5 of 6 events. Only Detroit being the race that got away from the Budweiser. The Mr. Pringles winning it after the Budweiser jumped the gun. Here they come into the first turn on this tiny 1.7 mile course that's been revised here due to the weather. And we're in our second exhibition run. This is actually 1B in terms of draw of boats, but it is an exhibition run. On the inside right now is the Oboy Alberto as we shoot right into the sunlight. The Budweiser in lane number 2, I believe. Check that, lane 3. And the Miller American in lane number 2. The Oboy Alberto getting the best of it right now against those 3 boats. The Pepsi America's Choice back a ways. There's Mitch Evans driving in 4th place. Again into the white caps as they go around the second turn. Those makeshift buoys doing as good a job as possible to show the drivers where to go. And right now, the Oboy Alberto in 1st place. 2nd place, Miller American. 3rd place, the Budweiser. And they all come in dead even as they come down to complete the first lap. Now down the main straightaway one more time. A piston engine on the inside in the Oboy Alberto. That's the boat that Chip Hanauer drove many years ago. In fact, won his first Gold Cup in that boat when it was the Atlas Van Lines. He now is driving the boat that he won the national championship 3 years ago. Last year, he drove this boat, narrowly losing to the Budweiser, but winning many races. And the Budweiser, the brand new Bud on the outside. In 4th place, Mitch Evans, and the Pepsi America's Choice owned by Ed Cooper out of Madison, Indiana. Jim Harvey, owner of this boat, has a pair of binoculars on it. Let's see what he thinks. Jim Harvey, what do you see?
Well, I see 3 boats, and it looks like we're on the inside.
What's the water like?
It's awfully rough down there. It's awfully rough.
Running pretty well.
Yeah, they're running real good right now.
And down they come, ending lap number 2. Budweiser, Miller, and then on the inside, the Oboy Alberto. Again, nice exhibition on the part of these 3 drivers. Mitch Evans in 4th place in the Pepsi America's Choice as they go around now, starting lap number 3 on this 3-lap 1B exhibition run. They will have a final, but no points. Let's get a word from Scott Pierce. Has the water changed when you were out there?
I don't believe so, Don. I think they're having just as much fun as I had.
Any fairings missing yet?
No, not that I've seen. Maybe we're only going to be the unlucky one to shed parts, but I'll tell you, we're really asking for it here.
The skin on the right fairing, that is the support that holds the rear wing up on the Mr. Pringles, was ripped off. No serious damage, but it's not too pretty in the meantime. Here's the leader in your exhibition 1B run, George Woods out of Seattle and the Oboy Alberto as they come around the second turn for the final time in those horrible white caps, 3-foot rollers. Look at that. Budweiser keeping a pretty good boat speed. Here comes the Miller American in lane number 2, and now it's a sprint for the finish, but George has the inside. George Woods and the Oboy Alberto as he comes down the main straightaway. Gotta give it to the Oboy Alberto. When you see the yacht come across your screen, that's the finish line. There it is. The Alberto gets the victory. Oh, they're even celebrating down in the pits, Jim Harvey and crew. So unofficially, the exhibition run for Heat 1B. The Oboy Alberto, the Miller American, the Budweiser, and the Pepsi America's Choice. Let's go down with Jim Hendrick.
Well, Georgie, it looks like you had a little bit of fun out there.
Oh, we had a ball out there today, Jim. It's still a little rough, but we had a fun ride.
Okay, now you're sitting there in lane number 1 and those 2 turbines right on your hip. What were you thinking?
Oh, I was thinking they were going to come by any time. But I handled real well. The water's rough. I think everybody's conserving their equipment today, and we're going to give it heck later in the next heat.
Final heat is winner take all.
You got it.
And that's when it counts.
That's when it counts.
Okay, George. George Woods, candidate for Rookie of the Year of the Unlimiteds. Back to you, Don.
Now you had to sit in the back behind the engine back where it's rough, and it's even rougher without water.
Yeah, it was a little bouncy to say the least. I finally found myself just trying to find a trough where the waves were coming together. I just drove through them, so we made it. It was okay.
What about the short course? I mean, it looks like you're almost going in a constant circle.
Yeah. By the time you get straightened out, it's time to turn again. So, but for this boat, it works okay. We're prepared for it.
No worse for the wear on the backside?
No. I strapped myself in and hunkered down and just hung on. So we did okay. No problem.
About 7 miles to the east of where we're racing today is one of the older campuses in the United States, Syracuse University, home of the Orangemen. Sunshine continues to go down, the weather continues to improve, and before we get to our exhibition final, a look at our weekly Mercury update.
The Tri-Cities Water Follies from Pasco, Washington was the setting for the 3rd round of the National Inboard Championship Series Powerboat Racing Tour. Sponsored by Mercury Marine and Ford Power Products, the 3-class event brought out the top inboard drivers to compete for $30,000 in prize money. The Formula Mercruiser 5-liter class was dominated by national champion Pat Patterson and his Pepsi-sponsored E44 boat. Patterson posted the fastest time on Saturday and took the win on Sunday with Gene Bird of Polson, Montana, placing second and Dave Leach of Federal Way, Washington in third. Though far ahead in points, Patterson made the final race exciting for the crowd.
Well, we like to finish out front, and of course, like I've said to you before, we never know where you are on who's done what to whom, so we like to finish out front. I think if you get used to finishing back in the pack and saying that's okay, then you don't challenge yourself to do your best. And so we like to get up there. It's a little bit early in the clock, so they got a little run on me in the start, but they left me a lane, and I went around and came up, and then it was a run with Airborne, and we had a pretty good race. I had a little malfunction in one of my switches on the dash, so I couldn't use my wing, and that was hurting me on the tail end of the chute. But after we settled that in and made a couple of adjustments, then we were able to stay in at the whole chute. That was the cost us in the first lap.
In the K-Racing Runabout category, George Nordling in Milwaukee, Oregon posted a 6-second lead over top driver Mike Newts going into Sunday's final. Newts from Portland, Oregon, who placed second in both final heats to Nordling's first, could never quite catch up as Nordling led the way.
When you hit that start, did you know you had everybody that far behind you?
Well, when it accelerates good, and maybe from the past couple races, once I get out front, generally it'll stay there if the motor stays good. I can only see back 2 or 3 boat lengths on each side, and I know there was nobody there, so that's all you got to go on.
In the most controversial races of the weekend, Formula Merc Cruiser 6 and 7 liter boats competed together, with the lighter 6 liters having the advantage on the fast, smooth water. Dave Vilwalk of Sumner, Washington edged out Ken Muscatel of Seattle for a win in the first heat, but a collision with Seattle's Bud Burns in heat number 2 took him out of the event. Ken Muscatel cruised to an easy victory in the restart. Jeff Warren placed second in points, with Vilnock finishing in third.
Kenny, how does a 6-liter boat come out the champion?
Well, you're quicker and faster. That's how you do it.
Great starts again.
Thank you. It was a little rougher this time than last time, but the boat is very quick. And if there's any kind of drag start to the first corner, this boat's going to get there first.
Only 3 boats there in the final main heat. What was your strategy?
Be there at the finish. Because we really just need to finish second or first to win overall. So you first make sure you get through the corner cleanly, and then out clean, and just keep running.
For the National Inboard Championship Series from Pasco, Washington, this is Steve Michael reporting.
And as Todd Yarling and company prepare the quick fill thriller for the exhibition final, let's get a word from a man who's had a long day. Tough decision today, but I'm glad you're able to get some kind of show going.
It was. It's always tough when you have weather like this. Sun's out and the wind's blowing and makes the course, really unraceable. But
fans are starting, though, to enjoy hydroplane racing in this town. That's what I've noticed, is the attendance is starting to grow. So I know that's another thing to consider.
Yes, it has been on the rise right through, and I think this is the 5th year we've had it in the Syracuse market. And we're getting the fan turnouts, and that's what even makes it tougher when you have weather like this. And you wish it was like Friday.
Keeping involved with the owners and the race officials, now the drivers are having their own meeting before our final exhibition run. Wonder what that's all about. Back on the shores of Lake Onondaga, Syracuse, New York, Chip Hanauer in the Miller American. I'm Don Poyer with Jim Hendrick. We have our final exhibition run. This is Jim Kropfeld, the defending national champion, and Budweiser owner Bernie Little, going out to the brand new Miss Budweiser, which has won 5 out of 6 this year. The one they didn't win, this boat did, the Mr. Pringles and Scott Pierce out of Seattle. Todd Yarling out of Hanover, heading out in the quick fill thriller, the U-22, and out goes the Miller American. As you can see, the weather really is considerably better, and the Oboy Alberto. And the Budweiser going out as we get ready for, again, our final, which is an exhibition run with 5 boats, 4 laps. Todd Yarling will be one of the drivers, the quick fill thriller, the U-22 out of Madison, Indiana. George Woods out of Seattle, and the Oboy Alberto. Piston engine, a Merlin V12. Scott Pierce, in his first year of driving a turbine-powered boat in the Mr. Pringles. 1 victory in 1987. Jim Kropfeld with 5 in the new Miss Budweiser set a world record on a 2-mile course during testing this week. We'll talk about that more during the final. And the defending champion on this course, Chip Hanauer. So for the final time this afternoon here in Syracuse, the wind has died down somewhat, and we're ready for our exhibition final run. 5 boats, 4 laps, and here they come down the main straightaway and into the first turn. The Mr. Pringles on the inside, then the Budweiser, the Miller American, and on the outside is the Oboy Alberto. The Bud and the Miller swinging wide. Now down the back chute. You can still see some of that chop as the sun gets even lower. The Mr. Pringles on the inside. Scott Pierce with 1 victory in 1987. The Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld right next to him. Back a bit. In 4th place is the Oboy Alberto. The quick fill thriller with Todd Yarling had trouble getting started. He's out on the course on the main straightaway, but to the outside and out of the way for racing. Coming down, completing lap number 1 of 4 laps, is the Budweiser with a slight lead. Jim Kropfeld setting a world record for a 2-mile course run on Friday at running better than 145 miles per hour, the old market 141. A world and course record for a 2-mile course, the Budweiser, and that seems to be the norm this year. The Budweiser setting world records wherever it goes. Now, here on the back chute. The Budweiser and the Mr. Pringles still doing battle. Somewhere behind the rooster tail of the Mr. Pringles is the Miller American and Chip Hanauer with the Oboy Alberto back-a-ways. There's the Miller moving up in between the Bud and the Mr. Pringles. So now you've got a three-boat show as they come around the second turn here on this exhibition run. A beautiful sight, no doubt about it, as the sun catches the rooster tail. Oh, that's gorgeous. Three of the fastest boats in the world coming down the main straightaway here on Lake Onondaga on a final exhibition run. The Oboy Alberto and George Woods coming down in fourth place with three boats out in front. The Miller American, a slight lead. Again, they're running for no points. They're strictly having fun and putting on a show for the crowd that is still here, running on this 1.7-mile course and letting them know what unlimited hydroplane racing is all about. The Miller American, this is the boat that won here last year, won the national championship 2 years ago. The Budweiser on the outside, the brand new boat that has really raised this sport to an all-new plateau. And you'll see the other camps try to catch up over the wintertime, building new boats as well. You'll probably watch the Miller and likewise the Mr. Pringles camp, Procter & Gamble. You don't be surprised if they have a new boat to go against this Budweiser. The Bud on the way outside with Jim Kropfeld out of Cincinnati, Ohio, a veteran of 25 years of hydroplane racing. They come down the main straightaway. This may be it. Let's see. No, they still have one more lap to go with the Oboy Alberto coming around the turns 3 and 4, where all the choppiness and all the trouble started at about 12 noon today, and around the turn for the final time as they go into turns 1 and 2. The Pringles now with a slight lead on the inside. Scott Pierce, Chip Hanauer, and Jim Kropfeld, and George Woods, for that matter, having a ball right now. No pressure. They're just out having fun with these million-dollar machines going down the back straightaway. What a gorgeous sight. All three boats coming down. Two drivers based out of Seattle, and, of course, Kropfeld, as I said, based out of Cincinnati. And now we'll see who's going to be the winner as they come around. Again, no points, but it's a little bit of pride on the line, you might say, as the Budweiser in the middle of the two outside lanes coming down. Look for the yacht across the main straightaway right there. And I think they're going to, well, the checkered flag is up. I can't call it. Too close to call. Here comes the fourth place boat, the Oboy Alberto with George Woods. And they're going to call it a tie. How about that? Lee Shaneth, the chief referee, out on the yacht saying, we'll call it that. It was an exhibition run anyway. Mr. Pringles, the Oboy Alberto, and Quick Fill Thriller unable to get started for the final heat. Let's go down to the pits. Chip, I just walked by the tower, and they're calling it unofficially a draw right now between you and Jim Kropfeld.
Even where I was sitting, I couldn't have called it.
I couldn't either, and I was calling it on the radio. So.
It was pretty interesting. I didn't have a lane at the start. Kept getting sawed off and tried to find some room to finally get up there and race with Jim. So it was a fun 4 laps.
It was beautiful. Nice running.
Thanks.
Unofficially, we understand it was a draw.
Oh, no. I thought I had him. I know I had him. I think they had the judge's boat out there in the middle, and I was off. He wasn't where he belonged. I know that.
Made it floated.
I think I had him. I really do.
It was an exhibition, of course. You had a lot of fun out there, it looked like.
Well, we thought we were doing pretty good. I think we were running pretty hard. I didn't want to go any fast, and all of a sudden I looked over, and there's Pierce running up the inside. I thought, and I seen Chip take off after him. I said, well, I better go get Chip.
But you had fun, and I think the fans had a good time.
I hope they did. You know, it was awful rough out there, and we had to shorten the course, but we did the best we could do under the circumstances, I think, and hopefully nobody hurt their equipment, and thank God none of the drivers got hurt.
That's racing.
That's it, part of the game.
One aspect we have not talked about, the NGK Sparkplug National High Points. The Bud now with a commanding 1,800-point lead. And with only 2 races remaining, it looks like they are in the driver's seat, to say the least. We'll return to Syracuse after this. Welcome back to Syracuse. That sun we talked about being so brilliant, bringing out the colors a moment ago, is just about gone, so we got to shoot this close in a hurry, James. Exhibition run today, but I think the fans at least got to see some good action.
Yeah, they got to see fast boats and tight turns, a small course, side-by-side action, the Rooster Tail. They're going to see a lot more, of course, in the APBA Gold Cup coming up in San Diego, which you and your crew will have syndicated. We'll be back on ESPN with the curtain closer at Lake Mead in Las Vegas, Nevada, and those will be for real in points, and we'll be back to the West Coast.
And things will be wrapping up in a hurry for 1987, actually.
Yeah, Where'd the time all go?
You know, turned into the West Coast, Jim. So for Jim Hendrick, I'm Don Poyer. To the official draw, to the Budweiser and the Miller, that's the way it's going to stand on this exhibition run in Syracuse. So long, everybody. If you'd like an Unlimited Hydroplane media guide, send $6 to the Unlimited Racing Commission, 414 Pontius Avenue North, Seattle 98109. The 1987 official spark plug is NGK, the source for serious power. Air transportation provided by Continental, the official airline of Unlimited Racing for the 1987 season. Boat camera is provided by Risley's of Evansville, Indiana. Columbia Crest Winery brings you the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series, sponsored by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Rent it all at U-Haul Centers.